Welcome to the Occupational Health and Safety Program for personnel involved with the laboratory animals at Kent State University. The goal of this program is to provide you with training, knowledge, and assessments to help ensure your safety while working in the lab. The program utilizes the principles of hazard identification, risk assessment, risk management, training, and preventive medicine. While working in the animal labs, you may be exposed to a number of risks or hazards, including allergies and asthma, bites and scratches, zoonotic diseases, chemicals, or biohazardous agents. It is the responsibility of the principal investigators for working collaboratively with the veterinarian, animal care supervisor, the environmental safety office, and the IACUC to identify and disclose hazards associated with their research, to ensure that appropriate safeguards are in place in the lab, and that lab personnel are appropriately trained. Allergic reactions to proteins in animal urine, saliva, and dander are the greatest potential health risks when working in the animal laboratory. In extreme cases, allergic responses can evolve into lifelong conditions like asthma. Early symptoms suggestive of an allergic reaction include nasal congestion, sneezing, irritated eyes, and sometimes rashes and hives. Symptoms that are particularly troubling are coughing, wheezing, and shortness of breath. When they do occur, allergy symptoms most frequently present in the first 6 to 36 months of starting to work with animals. Typically, symptoms begin within 15 minutes of exposure, but you can also develop symptoms 3 to 4 hours after exposure to animals. If you experience any symptoms, it is important that you minimize any additional exposures to prevent progression of the allergy symptoms. Notify your supervisor or the PI, and schedule an appointment with University Health Services or your primary care provider. Using personal protective equipment like gloves, masks, lab coats, and hair and shoe coverings when in the animal labs helps to reduce your exposure to animal allergens. Personal protective equipment, or PPE, is provided for you in the animal facilities, so be sure to use it. Proper work practices, including washing your hands and forearms with soap and water after exposure to animals, and properly decontaminating your work area, are also important tools for reducing animal allergens. When possible, you should perform animal manipulations within ventilated hoods or safety cabinets to reduce allergen exposure. When using some hazardous agents, you may be required to perform research tasks using a fume hood. It is important for you to be aware of any research procedures that involve using special protective measures and adhere to them without fail. When conducting research procedures where there is a risk of splashes, impacts, or exposure to radiation, you must wear safety glasses or a face shield to protect your eyes and face. You are not permitted to wear shorts or open-toed shoes in the animal labs, and you must remove jewelry before working in the lab and tie back your hair if it is long. Do not wear your PPE outside of the animal facilities, in the coffee or break room, or in the bathrooms. To avoid contamination of your personal items, do not bring backpacks, purses, cell phones, or other personal items into the lab. Do not eat, drink, smoke, apply cosmetics, or handle your contact lenses while in the laboratory working area. You cannot store human food or drinks anywhere in the lab area, and do not store PPE that you have used in the lab in the same locker or cupboard as your street clothing. Additionally, remember that access to animal facilities is restricted. You should not allow unauthorized people into the facilities. When working directly with laboratory animals, you are at risk for bites and scratches. Do not handle an animal if you have not been trained on the proper handling techniques. And be sure to note that to work in the animal laboratories at Kent State University, you are required and responsible for ensuring that you have had a tetanus shot within the last 10 years. If you are bitten or scratched by a research animal, you should immediately secure the animal, remove your protective gloves, and wash the site thoroughly for 15 minutes with soap and water. If the wound is bleeding, cover it with sterile gauze from the laboratory first aid kit. Notify the animal facility personnel and seek additional medical attention. You should also notify the principal investigator and document the incident on the accident injury form that is available from the KSU website. If you are a woman of childbearing age, you should be aware that working in a laboratory environment can introduce potential risks to you and your unborn fetus. Zoonotic diseases, hazardous chemicals, and compounds associated with laboratory animals are a concern. Should you be pregnant or plan to become pregnant, we strongly advise you to inform your supervisor and/or the principal investigator for your study and seek advice from your obstetrician or physician. This should be done as soon as you become aware of the change in your status. At Kent State, your safety is our priority. To ensure that you are knowledgeable about the risks and able to protect yourself in the laboratory, there are a number of training modules that you may need to complete, either online or in person, prior to having direct contact with the animals. Accidents can happen in the laboratory, and though unforeseen, you can minimize the likelihood and harm caused by paying attention during your training sessions. Be sure to know where the safety equipment is in the lab and how to use it. If you have questions about the safety equipment or emergency exit routes, it is your responsibility to seek clarification from the laboratory supervisor, PI, or facility staff. Kent State University is dedicated to conducting research in an ethical manner and in compliance with applicable federal, state, and local laws, regulations, and university policies and procedures. If you have a concern about the humane care of laboratory animals at Kent State University, their human handlers, adherence to approved protocols, safety in the laboratory, or a related matter, you can and should report that concern. There are a number of ways in which you can report concerns about research at Kent State University. You can contact any of the individuals or offices shown here. You can use the anonymous reporting forms that are posted in the animal facilities, or you can use the anonymous concern reporting tool that is available from the research website. Whether or not you make a report anonymously, all reviews and investigations are dealt with confidentially to the extent reasonably possible. Additionally, Kent State ensures that no facility employee, committee member, laboratory personnel, or students shall be discriminated against or be subject to any reprisal for reporting violations of any regulations or standards under the Animal Welfare Act. Thank you for your attention during this short video. Next up, you will need to answer some questions about your general health to help us assess your basic risks for allergies or other conditions when working in the animal labs. Please be sure to answer these questions openly and honestly so that we can help to ensure your safety in the labs at Kent State. In some cases, the results of the assessment may require that you schedule an appointment at University Health Services or a medical provider of your choice prior to your having direct contact or exposure to the laboratory animals. If this is the case, you will need to complete the Animal Exposure and Health History forms, Parts A and B, and take it with you to University Health Services. The medical provider then completes the clearance form for you, and then you return it to the supervisor or your principal investigator at the animal facility. If you are a personnel working on an IACUC-approved project, the completed clearance form must also be submitted to the Office of Research Compliance for inclusion into the research records. I know this is a lot of information, but once you complete the assessment, a copy of the results and what you need to do next, if anything, will be sent to your kent.edu email address. So let's get started.